All right, so today I'll be discussing Bitcoin and silver, what I personally think may happen with them in the future, what's to come, and will they become the future of finance? Okay, so before we hop into it, this is not financial advice. No, I am not a financial advisor. There is risk. You should do your own research. This video is for informational and educational purposes only. Read the disclaimer in my description. This is not financial advice. So we can start off with Bitcoin. I'm sure you've heard of it by now. You've heard of crypto in general. But how many people actually hold Bitcoin or know why it's valued, right? Most people don't have any crypto, no Bitcoin, no nothing. And if they do, it's a very minimal amount. And obviously it's in its early stages, it's still very volatile. So I can understand that because it's risky, right? And that's why they're working with stable coins and things like that. They just passed a bill that's a big crypto bill, and a lot of people, institutions will be using stable coins, and over these next few years you'll see crypto become more and more popular, more mainstream, and obviously people want it to become more stable, and that's completely respectable, right? But when you look at the US dollar, the US just prints money to no end. You wonder why inflation keeps going up, and they just print more and more money, and it just doesn't stop. So what value does a dollar really hold? I mean, obviously you use it to buy things, to buy houses, assets. So that's awesome. I think having cash is cool, and it's good to have a cash pile in the bank or high yield savings account or whatever it may be. There's no limit to it. There's no end. That's a pretty common concept or simple concept to grasp. Now with Bitcoin, it's a limited supply of 21 million Bitcoin, and it is starting to fill up. There's not much supply left, and it's just I don't get how people can't acknowledge at least that alone is more, gives it an edge over the dollar. That's just supply and demand, right? I mean, there's a limited supply, and there's a reason it's been going up. Also, from what I've seen, the global money supply has been going up too, and Bitcoin does seem to generally correlate with that. I'm not saying you should go out and put all your money into Bitcoin and crypto, but you should at least learn about it, right? Do your due diligence, do your research, and understand that it's decentralized, right? The point of Bitcoin and crypto is to have no central authority, where the banks are people, some people trust them, some people don't. I can see both sides, but also just the dollar in general, there's just no end to it. And you have to wait for transfers, take a while. With Bitcoin and crypto, you can obviously transfer quicker. So the main point I'm trying to make with all this Bitcoin talk is you should do your research, understand why you might want to invest into it, and understand the ins and outs of how it's decentralized, a global currency. You don't have to wait for the banks to be open, all that stuff. So here's an example that I recently heard about. I was at the silver shop a couple months ago, and I'll get into silver in a second. But the dealer was telling me that this one guy had a big order and he was selling some silver. And then obviously the price of silver, it can change a decent amount in a short period of time. And he had to wait for a wire transfer to come through. And by that time, he had to pay that much more because he had to wait for that money to come through. And if crypto was more normalized, mainstream, which it will become, that problem solved. So that's just one example where it makes sense. And obviously it's still early. Last thing you want to happen is a Bitcoin and crypto go crazy. I'm not just saying for a bull run, I'm saying for the future of finance. And the last thing you want to happen is that to happen, and you didn't do your research. You at least want to be able to say, okay, at least I knew about this. If you just watch it all happen, you say, oh, I wish I would have learned more about that. You know, at least learn about it. That's what I'm saying. And, you know, the Bitcoin price right now, it's, I don't know, like 117, 118. It's, what day is it today, June? And yeah, the Bitcoin price is 117, 118 right now, July 19th, 2025. So, obviously it's high, right? I'm not saying you should buy a bunch right now. I am bullish short term and long term. There may be a crash. I mean, you look at stocks, they're overvalued. There could be a big market crash coming, I don't know when. So only invest what you're willing to lose. But I think, and I started accumulating around, I've always had like a little bit, but it was super insignificant. I started to accumulate around 70,000-ish. Yeah, I'm not saying you should go out and buy a bunch right now. Obviously, I said this is not financial advice. In the first place, you want to be smart about it. One thing you will want for sure is to be knowledgeable with Bitcoin and crypto. And there's plenty of other coins too, but learn first and go from there. So yeah, now we can jump into silver, and you know, just like Bitcoin, the price of it right now is elevated. Probably should have made this video sooner, but I don't think it matters too much. I do think that it has the potential to run a lot from what I've heard, and it could also tank. You know, be careful with it. And I started accumulating around $32, $33. I don't remember exactly, but in January-ish, I heard Robert Kiyosaki talking about real money, fake money, and it intrigued me. And then I learned a lot more about it, listened to more people, talked to dealers, talked to this person, listened to more and more videos, and it's very interesting how the price of silver and gold, the ratio is so far out. And from what I've heard from people like Big Swear and some other people, I like to get different opinions before I formulate mine, because I just like to hear all sides, right? But I hear lots of talk about the silver price being manipulated, and there's actually a lot more gold in the world than what they say there is, which obviously more supply, less value. But the big thing is there is so much use for silver and technology. One of the best conductors of electricity, and there's so much demand for it, and people will need to use it. And there's solar panels, electric cars, all this. I mean, everybody knows technology it runs the world, and they will continue even more and more. And people will use silver. And they say that these banks will short the price because they hold the gold, right? They want the gold to go up. But people say that, you know, people will buy silver on the COMEX, which is just like the exchange for metals and stuff like that. But people say that they buy them digitally, right? They can cash it out and get the silver to them, you know, the physical silver. But people have been saying that there's these banks, these guys don't hold enough actual physical silver for what people hold digitally on the COMEX. And if everybody wanted to actually cash out, they would not be able to get that silver in their possession. So the people I listen to strongly recommend get your silver in your own possession. You watch guys like Big Swear, Silver Dragons, Backyard Bullion, good YouTube channels. Big Swear is very bullish on silver, and he has lots and lots of reasons, and it's very interesting to hear him. You know, I like to hear guys, and I don't like to automatically agree with everything they say. I like to hear all sides. But Backyard Bullion keeps it he is very real. You know, I like to listen to him because he's not this super crazy bullish guy. He just keeps real with what he thinks. I think you should see both sides, because you could listen to one crypto guy who said, oh, these coins are all going to run, and he's just trying to pump and dump you, right? So you have to be very careful with things too. But from a lot of research, yes, I am bullish on silver. You know, set the manipulation aside. You know, there's so much use for it, so much demand. Formulate your own opinion and go from there. So, but the gold to silver ratio is absolutely insane. I mean, it's 80 something to 1 right now. And obviously the gold is a gold, cool, but silver is not that much worse than gold. I think we all can agree that the financial world has changed a lot and is changing and will continue to change pretty rapidly over these next few years. So you have to be on your toes, learn all the potential things you can do, learn the ins and outs. You need to be aware. What do you want to actually do? Don't get caught behind. Don't sit there and say, oh, I just don't understand cryptocurrency. Like, I don't understand why people would buy silver or gold, or I don't understand stocks. No, just take the time and learn about it. You don't have to spend 5 hours a day. You could be at work listening to some videos, some YouTube videos or some podcasts or whatever. Just take some time to learn a little bit every day, and you'll be happy you learned. So there is risk to all this stuff, just with anything. I would very strongly recommend that you take some time, learn about Bitcoin, crypto, silver, gold, learn about stocks if you don't know about stocks. Just learn about finance in general. Times are changing. The dollar, it just seems to be weakening. It's printing to no end. And silver and Bitcoin, there's a limited supply to them. They both have value. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. I'll be happy to get back to you guys. This is all risky. I'm not a financial advisor. Do your research and take care.